Hello and welcome back to Deck Doctor. We're going to continue with our control decks, and next up we have one of my favourite Free Wishes decks as of recent, and that's blue-green Gabrian Wish Control. Now this deck is very good against aggro, and I've geared this deck mainly to fight that archetype, as when I've been playing this deck, that's what I've been facing the most. Stuff like Yellow Rush. As you can see here, it does run the Free Wish win condition, but it also is fueled by turning our high health creatures into real threats with that Gabrian Enchantment. So let's get into the deck, guys, and talk about the creatures. So the creatures in this deck have undergone a few changes. This deck was based on Lou's build he used in one of the monthly cups, and since then I've made some alterations with some suggestions from other players and some ideas of my own. So Flower Silk Fairy is a pretty standard creature in this list. There's a lot of events. It gets buffed up. It becomes a taunter. It also has the opportunity to zip around the board with its mobility and push a lot of damage. If you buff it up with, say, an Elderwood Embrace and give it the Gabrian's Enchantment, it can be like a 9/9 who can kind of give a quick kill or fight on board. So this is a very versatile creature in this deck. And much like Living Willow, this is a taunt automatically. A little slow when it comes to the movement, but still becomes a 10/10 with the Gabrian's Enchantment. And one thing to note as well, if you're playing against a lot of Rush on ladder, Living Willow is a bit of a nightmare for Rush players to deal with, especially Yellow Rush, because the one attack clears all their haste creatures. So this is a very good card when dealing with that deck specifically. Now, Rainforest Explorer may seem like a weird one, and it was actually Noah who suggested this card when he was watching my stream and watching me play this deck a lot. And it actually is, I think, is really good. 4 Faeria for a 4/6 that can be summoned anywhere on your land tiles. Now, the one thing that Free Wishes can do is restrict you from where you can play your creatures, and this can actually play a big role in defending, because if you haven't got the right land tiles next to your orb, for example, you may not be able to summon the taunt you need or whatever card you need to defend at that point. The beauty of Rainforest Explorer is that not only does it have a great stat line, 6 health is a lot of health in the current metagame, but it can also be summoned anywhere. So this is a very flexible creature, and it's actually become one of my favorites in this deck. You can even Gabrian's Enchantment it up to a 6/6 to clear stuff like Ground Shakers, for example. So I think this is a great creature for this deck. Gabrian Enchantress, much like Gabrian Enchantment, but just basically a creature version. It did start off with 2 of these, but I started cutting them down for other things, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But it's just that extra little pump of damage. It gives you a Faeria Gatherer as well. It can also be turned into a 5/5 with an enchantment. So I think 1's fine. I think it works pretty well. Next up is Kingsguard. This is another card which I've added over time after lots of testing. It's a good taunt body. It allows you to draw a card to dig deeper into the deck. Queensguard might be a bit better, I'm not sure, because that extra Faeria could help, but I kind of like Kingsguard. And another synergy it has, which I'll go into as well, again for Rainforest Explorer and Gabrian Enchantress, 4 into 6 and 6 into 8 for Unbound Evolution is really strong. So ever since adding these Rainforest Explorers and these Kingsguards, I've bumped up the amount of Unbound Evolutions, not only to synergize with these, but also give us a way to transform things like Zealous Crusaders into much more manageable threats. Last but not least, this deck really needed a win condition. That was the one thing that was lacking through the testing. So we've added 1 Primeval Colossus. And this is basically that one guy who comes down if Free Wishes didn't steal you a win condition, and you can just dump him in front of your opponent's face and say, you know, what's up? Do you have an answer for this? So 1 copy seems great for this deck, as you will be drawing a lot of cards with Kingsguard, but also as the game drags on, you'll want a late game threat to finish things off. So let's move on to the event cards. So I've kind of gone through some of the event cards in the creature explanation, but let's just quickly go through these again. Unbound Evolution, great interactions with the 4 and 6 drops within the deck, but also great at transforming enemy threats into something more manageable. Zealous Crusader comes to mind, Soul Eaters, Apex Predators, you name it, you can transform it into something else and hopefully have the ability to clear it. Earthcraft just synergizes great with Free Wishes decks. You get to make a land that helps you accelerate your lands for the Free Wish requirements. You also get to draw a card, so you dig deeper into your deck. and it also synergizes very well with Flower Silk Fairy. Gabrian Enchantment, kind of the card that brings this deck together and makes it so viable. Convert the life of your creature into attack power. So Willows, King's Guards, plenty of cards in this deck which I've gone through for the creatures that interact with this card. And you draw a card as well, so lots of card draw in this deck to help get those wishes. Elder Wood Embrace just helps fight on board, gives your creatures a bit more stability with a better health stat, but again has that interaction with Gabrian's Enchantment. So yeah, they are the events. Let's talk about the legendaries in this deck. So I've gone through these legendaries in my past videos and their strengths and how powerful they are. Within the top 3 legendaries, the only one that's missing is Kaleem, which could even feature in this deck. Is a free wish deck, and you're going to develop 2 deserts. So if you do have Kaleem, I'm going to try him out. I definitely recommend it. But Aurora, of course, going to be able to change our creatures into something bigger. But another thing this does as well, because our creatures get buffed up a lot from Gabrian's Enchantments, or have decent health stats anyway, it can just replenish their life and just give them a bit more staying power on board. Garadan is the only area of effect clear we have, so we do need a board wipe in this deck. Firestorm requires 3 mountains, so Garadan just a little easier to reach with the mountain cost, but also gives that 6/6 body. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory with these legendaries, some of the best in the game. And yeah, so let's just talk about the last card, which is the finisher of this deck. So last but not least is the free wish card, which is going to help give this deck a little bit more staying power against control decks, but also give it a bit of sustain against aggro. You steal your opponent's resources, and you use them against them. So you gain 3 life, take the top 3 copies of your opponent's deck, and put them into your hand. Well, put copies of them into your hand, and they cost 3 less. Now, one thing that's important to note about this card, it isn't considered card draw. When you copy cards from your opponent's deck with this card, cards like Flower Silk Fairies, for example, don't get buffed up. It's not organic card draw. They only get buffed if you draw from your deck, and this is drawn from your opponent's deck, and it's only drawing copies. So just be sure of that interaction. Don't try and use free wishes to buff up your Flower Silks. But this just gives, like I said, gives the deck just a lot more staying power, a lot more options to play with, and alternate win conditions as well by stealing your opponent's cards. So let's talk about land placement before we move on to the Mulligan. So land placement is pretty straightforward with this deck. You're going to be playing defensively, so you're going to be building land around your orb. Now, one thing I try to do with this deck is create a certain pattern of lands, because these lands activate your Rainforest Explorer, but they also give you the best defensive lands and using your taunt creatures from the green color. So to start things off, you want to be placing 2 forests on either side of your orb, and this will give access to defense cards when you need them, and also get your Flower Silks down early so you can buff them up. Next up, you want to be placing the lakes next to them, and this is basically setting up for the free wish land placement. I like the lakes here. And there might not be any real specific reason, but it just allows you to push out the next 2 lands, which I'm going to talk about quicker in their more important tiles. So you get these lake down, and then you move on to your mountains and deserts. So let's talk about the mountains first. So this is what's called the Garadan spot. This allows Garadan to double collect the turn he has played. So this is the usual ideal place to play Garadan on either side of the well. And then once you've set up that Garadan spot, you want to be setting up deserts on the other side. So if you steal Wind Soldiers, they can double collect as well. Another thing you could do as well, if you don't need the lakes, you can set up the deserts next to your forests on your side of the wells, and that sets up double collection for Wind Soldiers as well. But you'll probably be wanting to get the lakes down first, just because they give you access to more cards in this deck, but also allow the Rainforest Explorer to get its full buff. So let's talk about the Mulligan. So these are 4 of the cards you're going to want to find in your Mulligan. Flower Silk Fairy being a great opener, very cheap, allows you to collect Faeria early, and also plays into that double forest the same way as Living Willow. It's a good defensive card as well if you're going up against Yellow Rush. And you'd also want to get Earthcraft to go with the Flower Silk Fairy, because they synergize so well. It gives you a card draw, lets you develop a land, and you will also get that buff off the other events. And the Rainforest Explorer is a great card to keep because you're going to be building slow anyway. You're going to go for double forest into double lake. This is kind of a turn 4 play, really. But I don't see any problem with keeping it. It's quite cheap, and it can get you some early Faeria gathering. So that wraps up this episode of Deck Doctor, covering the green-blue Gabrian Wishes control. One of my favourite decks at the moment. I played it a lot during the season until I picked up the red-blue Bold Bargainer deck. But this is a lot of fun. It's great against aggro as well. And if you want to build a budget version of this deck, control decks are generally more expensive, but what you can do is take out the 2 Legendaries, add an Enchantress in for Aurora, and a Primeval Colossus for Garadan. I'll give you a late game threat, much like Garadan, and they'll also give you something that gives you a buff, kind of like Aurora. So that's a good way to make a budget list, but you're going to need all the other cards to really bring the list together. Thank you very much for watching as usual. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy this deck as well. Like I said, one of my favorite Free Wishes decks in the meta game at the moment. Like, subscribe, drop a comment if you have any questions or any thoughts on the decks, and of course give our social medias a follow. All your support is greatly appreciated, and it's going to help us grow Faeria into a great game. Thank you very much, guys. As usual, I'll be back with another episode of Deck Pilot to complement this video in the near future. Until we meet again, thanks, have a great day.